GM. Welcome to Web3 Academy, a place for entrepreneurs, businesses, and creators to explore and learn how to use Web3 to transform business models and build thriving communities. I'm Jay Bird, and this is the Doer Spotlight, where every week we break down the leaders of top projects in Web3. Today's spotlight is with Matt Espinoza. We dive into so many exciting things. First off, how at 20 years old, Matt built and sold his Web3 startup for 6 figures within 1 year. We talk about how Matt launched his own currency, Matt Token, and raised $20,000 from friends and family. And now Matt Token is a verifiable token on the blockchain. You can trade it, you can buy it. We'll talk about that and why he launched that. We'll talk about building Agora Labs into a leading platform for the creator economy, which led Matt to drop out of school and attend Z Fellows Accelerator program. And then the key steps that Matt took in order to get acquired for a 6-figure payout. And then we're also going to talk about Matt's predictions for the future of social tokens. Where does he see it years from now? This is a banger, folks. You're really going to enjoy it. So excited. But before we jump into the show, let's hear a word from our sponsor.
The future of social media is here, and that future lives in Web3 on top of Lens protocol. Web2 social platforms are broken and ripe for disruption. You see, the epicenter of social media is the creators, and yet they are the most neglected. Web2 platforms like Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram are all essentially robbing creators of their worth. Creators are a new type of entrepreneur, forming new types of businesses. Yet with Web2 platforms, creators don't own their content or their profiles, and that's their product and business. Instead, they are tied to the platforms they choose to create on. Well, just like how crypto is freeing us from banks, Web3 is freeing us from these centralized platforms. On Lens protocol, creators own their content, own their profile, and even their social graph and followers in the form of NFTs. This allows you to move freely from one social application to another with your content, profile, and followers moving along with you. Lens protocol enables self-sovereignty for your social graph and interoperability across the internet. At Web3 Academy, we believe this is the future of social, and that's why we partner with Lens to ensure that the path of social media is heading in the right direction. Visit lens.xyz to learn more today.
Matt, welcome to the show. Great to have you today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Really excited to dive into, so much that you've done in such a short period of time. I can't believe that you're only 20 years old. You make me feel like I've done nothing with my life. So thanks for inspiring me.
Of course, I'm so excited to kind of deep dive over this last year. Like it's been nuts. You can write a movie out of it. Like it's crazy.
I mean, maybe we should drop an NFT, write a script together. We'll get a whole community and we'll do it that way. Or maybe we'll do it with your token, with Matt Token. Okay, wait, before we jump into all these things, let's start at the beginning. So how did you first sort of fall down the rabbit hole? What caught your interest about Web3?
Yeah, so I first started kind of diving into the world of crypto almost 1.5 years ago when all my friends started talking to me about this new platform called BitClout. And essentially it was a social token platform, kind of similar to a decentralized Twitter, where each user has their own token. And they can post, they can share what they're up to. And then that idea was super interesting to me, like having a social token. You could definitely dive into what a token really is, but essentially it's a kind of way to communicate with your fans more directly, have people fund your life, have some governance on where you're going to be in life, and then easily tell your early supporters from day one.
Okay, so you learn about BitClout. So let's just where are you at this point? Are you in school? Are you in high school?
Yeah.
Are you in university?
I'm still in school. So this would be first year, just finishing first year of university.
Okay, so you're finishing first year. You're at York University in Toronto, correct?
Yeah, in Toronto, yeah.
Okay, and what are you studying?
Computer science.
Computer science. Okay, and you notice a bunch of friends and people are on BitClout.
Yeah. That's right. And mostly everyone's talking about it. They're either posting on their stories And most of my friends were tech friends. Like anyone else outside the tech bubble didn't know about it.
They
But
don't have a clue.
but the people that were up to date knew what was happening, and something was
Okay.
happening. So,
Okay. And so explain to us a little bit what you mentioned. BitClout is a decentralized Twitter. So
yeah.
so I create a profile on BitClout, and as part of creating my profile, I now have a social token.
Yeah, that's right. So that was actually part of the process. And so one of their, I think, initial bets was that instead of having tokens for anyone, I mean, specifically for celebrities or top individuals, why not have every user be a token? And at that point, that creates some interesting serendipity moments within the platform.
Interesting. Okay, so I do want to dive a bit more into why a person other than a celebrity would have a social token. But first, let's keep going along the story. So then, as part of this, you launched Matt token.
Yeah, so I did some research, obviously, before I launched my own token. But from there, I was pretty committed. It made a lot of sense. And that was my first like real step into Web3, actually launching my own personal token, which is still available. It's called Matt token. And at the time, I raised around 20K from some family and friends. And it kind of had to explain the concept of, you're kind of investing into who I'm going to become in the future. You have some say in where I'm going to go in life. And from there, I kind of built out now I actually update all my investors, token holders, whatever you want to call them, every month and a half or so about what I'm up to.
Okay, so I need to hear this pitch. So
yeah,
you're going to your mom, your brother, I don't know, like some family friends. Yeah. You raised 20K. Amazing. That's incredible. That's no small feat. And you did that. Sorry. So what are they investing in? What are they getting in by owning Matt token?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing was that I had a lot of family, friends, especially high school people. So in high school, I was like top of the class, everything. And people knew that, at least based off how much they invested, they seemed to understand that I was going to do something that other people in my age wouldn't be able to do. Mm-hmm. And so they thought, what, even if I invest a quick $500 into this token, it's not too big of a deal. And I get to be able to see someone progress. And in the same way that they kind of felt, I think their position was more like, I want to be an angel investor, technically, into a company. And this company is going to be Matt. And so when I started viewing it that way, I felt that at that point, it started like really shifting my mind of like, I'm a company, I'm a startup. I need to grow as quickly as possible. I need to, exponentially increase my revenue sources. And so once I started having that entire shift just from launching a token, I felt I had investors, I had people I need to update to. I need to show that I'm making progress in life. So that was a complete mind shift, I would say, from launching my first token.
And of that 20K, is that mostly $500 investments? Like, is that a bunch of $1 investments? Like, what's the breakdown of your investors or token holders?
Yeah, I would say it was like, I think closer family friends who had a bit more, I guess, like money to spend for the initial get-go was a couple thousand, and then more high school friends who were still, working like a minimum job, more of a closer to 500.
Okay. Yeah. And so you're getting out of this, and this is just a unbelievable concept, is this idea of creating a token of yourself.
Yeah.
So you're getting out of this accountability, right?
Right.
That's what you get out of this. It forces you, as you said, you give a update to all your token holders every 6 weeks. You feel, definitely feel accountable. There's a real sense of, wow, these people believe in me and they invest in me, so I need to deliver for sure. It brings some pressure, definitely, which can be a good thing. But what do they get, and what's their involvement? Are they voting on things? Are they getting some sort of utility out of this?
Yeah. So another way I set it up actually was that initially on DSO, there was no evident way to be able to see what the perks and the actual incentive would be for buying a token. In the beginning, it was a lot of speculation. You would buy someone's token, kind of hope it would increase in value, then sell if you wanted to. And so actually, what you're literally saying right now is actually the idea of Agora Labs. That was the initial problem that no one was solving, adding perks, utility, and reason beyond it to a token, beyond speculation. So we built an initial demo of the app, nothing too fancy, just to kind of get user validation, landing page, very basic product. We launched it out in like 6 days. We just hacked it together, and then we had a landing page, but we didn't actually have access to the product. No one had access to the product. You had to pretty much go to the landing page and sign up. And we just wanted to see, is there any user validation before we make this super fleshed out? And in the span of 72 hours, we got over 1,000 email signups. And this was like a niche, super niche blockchain. Visa protocol was known by very few people. And so 1,000 was like probably like 10, 15% of the entire protocol.
It's pretty good validation.
Which is a pretty good validation, yeah. And so from there, we launched our own token, which at the time was called BitPerks, which is later rebranded to Agora Labs. So we launched the initial BitPerks token, which is still also active on the protocol, and that was kind of the kickstart. And that kind of kickstarted some monetary value for actually building the company, hiring our first engineers, and kind of scaling it from there.
Okay. So you brought up Agora Labs, which is your startup that you created, and I want to get into that. I just want to talk a little bit more about Matt Token first. Sure. So, because the one thing I'm trying to wrap my head around is with social tokens, and I think we can put Matt Token into that category of social tokens. What I don't understand is, where is the line between investment and an aim to make money from this and profit versus I'm doing this because I support this thing or this person, and this is actually not about the money for me. Yeah. I just want, it's like, how do you, because to me, social tokens sort of fall more into that, like, almost support category. It feels it's not a charity, right? I wouldn't go that far, but whereas like a fungible, what I would, more like, I think about a more traditional fungible token, like that is pure investment, right? Like I am investing in that because I believe that it's going to go up in value. Do you make that distinction? How do you think about that?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think there's a fair line. I think, so for example, Patreon, there's like some get value. So I think the best way to think about it is like, you have the initial, here's if you invest in my token, maybe you have like a one-on-one monthly call with me, for example. That's a typical Patreon thing. You can add that to a token. But then what's also interesting about a token is that, imagine now you have Patreon, you're investing maybe $20 a month into this random creator, and maybe 2 months later, this guy just completely blows up. He's like millions of followers. You don't get anything from that. You didn't get any boost from that. But if you were to add a token to that exact same scenario, you would have potentially, definitely have been able to monetarily increase, assuming the token of that individual also increased more or less alongside the followers he gained.
Right. And just for our listeners, so Patreon is a Web 2 platform that essentially allows creators to monetize their followers by charging a fee for access, right? Like you said, your example, a $20 subscription fee, you pay $20 a month, and you get access to my writing, to my videos, to me personally. Like there's a whole variety of things that you can give access to through Patreon. Okay, so the real difference here is what a social token allows is in Web 2, if you're a creator, you're selling a monthly membership in order for somebody to get access to your stuff, and it ends there. There's no value going back to the person who's supporting you.
Right, exactly. There's like a one-on-one exchange, like a $20 monthly call. Like that's it. But with a token, you have that extra layer, which is the potential for exponential curve of a token.
Very interesting. Okay, so you launch Matt Token. And okay, so continue telling us the journey.
So I launched Matt Token, found the same problem you did, like a lot earlier than everyone else seemed to figure that out. And then build BitPerks, which solved the problem of individuals like tokens are more than just speculation. So you need to have some reason for actually buying the token. So built that out, shipped it out, and then in January, I started taking my startup game a little bit more serious, and joined a couple accelerator programs, which really kind of scaled my ideas of just like knowing how to build a product to knowing how to build a company. And from there, that kind of just from there, I was able to increase the users, understand the feedback, and then eventually sell the platform.
Right. Okay. So very exciting ending to this story is that you have sold this platform, and so we'll get to that. Talk to me first about the early startup days. Was it just you? When did you bring on founders?
Yeah.
How did you find founders? What was that process like?
Yeah, that's a good question. So initially it started out with me, my best friend from high school, and then one person I met like twice online. But I knew he was like, it took like almost, it's funny, it took almost like 7 months for like the entire co-founding team to all meet in person. And we were just like building on the sidelines just through like Discord community calls. And eventually we met up, actually, funny enough, a couple months ago. But initially it was just like us co-founding a company, having the same idea of the problem, and then having unique ideas for solutions, and just kind of building, failing, experimenting, understanding our failures and experiments, and then reiterating. And we all did that. Like everyone was in school at the time, during the September to December grind. And so we're doing school, and then right after, startups, calls, Discord, daily stand-ups. And so that was a complete hassle there. But that was super fun. Just like kind of doing it with friends, and no higher expectations at the time. We didn't raise any money during that time period beyond just the initial token launch. It was just a lot of fun. It was just a lot of fun. And when I look back at those like couple months, it was just like doing school and then doing a startup, which was like kind of crazy.
It's totally wild. You're a unique individual to leave school and not go drink beers or go party with your friends. Right. Yeah. You're going home to Discord to build and create a Web3 tech product. It's amazing.
Yeah. With like one person I've met in real life and one person I've never met.
Yeah, exactly. So, which is just the amazing part of building online now. Yeah. And I don't know if it's like COVID that really allowed us this. I think that's a big part is, COVID pushed us all online, and I think online, forced us to be more trusting online because you just knew you weren't going to meet people in person. But it is so cool, the relationships that you can develop with a total stranger online, and that you could build a company. And then, so let me just ask this question. Did you meet in person before you sold?
Yes, we did. Yeah, we did.
You did. Okay. I thought you were going to say you met in person after you sold.
No, we definitely did meet in person before we sold, which is
That's great. That's great. Yeah. I mean, we talk all the time. We started a DAO, Web3 Academy DAO, about 2 or 3 months ago. And our tagline for it is building a company with internet strangers.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
It's hilarious. Okay. So let's just talk a little bit more about, I want to talk about two things. One, I want to talk about Agora Labs and what that product was and what you were doing. I know you mentioned briefly the problem you were solving, but let's just dive into that a little bit more. And then I want to talk about your journey of building a little bit more I know you mentioned you had some sort of inflection points of acceleration and I want to talk about what those inflection points were. I know you joined some accelerators, and so I want to chat about those. But first, let's just break down Agora Labs a bit further. What was it called in the beginning? Sorry.
It was called BitPerks.
BitPerks first. Let's ask, why did you move from BitPerks to Agora Labs?
I think there's two reasons. The first part is that BitPerks, it just sounded a little bit scammy. If I were to say, hey, I have a company, it's called BitPerks, like we have rewards on top of tokens, it doesn't sound like a $1 billion company. Agora Labs was like adjacent enough that we weren't tied to the idea of perks. If you wanted to ship a different product, it didn't have to be reward based. And so with Agora Labs, Agora actually means community in Greek. And so that was the initial idea. And then you always see all these companies that have labs at the end, like Utopia Labs, and like I can probably name a couple others as well. And so all these Web3 companies have labs at the end. So we're like, what? We're gonna
Yeah,
add
yeah.
labs at the end of this as well. So Agora
Dust Labs, the God's founding team. Their name is
Yeah.
Dust Labs. What is another? It feels like,
There's
so
a
is
lot.
that branding 101 right there? Just throw labs on the end
Yeah.
of your name.
For Web3 products, yeah, just add labs at the end of it.
Find a Greek or an old time word, use that meaning, and find a Greek god, use the meaning, and put labs on the end, and there you go.
That was it.
Okay, so and what were you doing? What was dive a little bit? I know you explained it briefly, but dive a little bit more into it.
So essentially, with the Agora platform, you're able to connect your token that was built on the DSO protocol. Easily connected the same way you would log in using Google, right? Log in using Google, log in using DSO. So that same type of Web3 integration. So you log in using your DSO platform.
Sorry, Matt, I mean to cut you off, but just want to quickly, we didn't really explain, DSO is the same as BitClout. So we were talking at the beginning about BitClout. Can you just make that connection?
Yeah, sure. So BitClout, I think it was September, October, it was rebranded to DSO protocol. Mostly because the community mostly believes it was mostly because of controversy around BitClout, but regardless, it got rebranded. And so when I say BitClout, DSO, they're the same blockchain platform. Just the way it is connected there. So you log in using the DSO protocol, and so you have your token, you connect it, and from there you're pretty much able to choose your rewards, your token gated access, pretty much entire layer that you weren't able to access just regularly creating your token. So DSO was good at making tokens, scaling tokens, and building tokens. What we were good at was actually taking that initial token and then adding a new layer that no one else is building on top of, which was the rewards, the perks, why hold it. It kind of creates similar to what NFTs are doing now with, I give you an NFT, you have token gated access to, I guess NFT gated access to a product or a service.
Okay. And can you give us maybe use Matt token as an example or another token? Can you give us an example of what are the actual use cases?
Yeah. So I think I'm trying to think of some interesting use cases. One user on our platform, for example, he had like some governance based off of how many tokens you owned. And so depending on how many tokens you own, you're able to, he tattooed certain parts of his body, and you get to choose what the tattoo was. Yeah, so it's kind of crazy. I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool.
Okay, so using the tokens to vote on tattoos on this guy's body. And is this person a large influencer? Are they?
No, he's just regular guy who made a decent amount of money from making his token because it was a unique stance. Another one was kind of cool, was someone was live streaming their life for I think like 3-4 days. And so then the people who were watching the live stream could then decide what activities he's going to do, what he's going to eat. And so that was a pretty fun one as well. For mine personally, I often just do investor updates. And then something I've also seen some tokens as well, which is kind of cool. I don't know if I would do this, but something I've seen is that they have like income share agreement based off the token. And so depending on how much of the token you own, let's say I make 100K and 20% of what I make is going to go directly to the token and get distributed to all the shareholders or token holders.
I was gonna ask that because you mentioned when you first said why people invested in Matt token was because you were seen as this like future Mark Zuckerberg. Everyone was like, this Matt's so smart. I want to, but you're not doing that, to be clear.
Yeah. I'm not doing the income share agreement.
Right. Because that's a big commitment to do that, because if you were to commit to that, I'm guessing that would be, you would write that in a smart contract. Like, would you be able to change that later, or would you be committed to that forever?
I mean, that's the thing, right? So, like I know at least one person, I think he's doing like 10% or like 7% of his entire income. And so I think one of the biggest problems, at least for me anyways, is that you have to publicly show how much you're making every year.
Right.
So that's, you can't get away with like any tax fraud or anything like that. You have to literally show how much you made and how much you're going to give back. So I think he's actually doing it after taxes as well. So he shows like the after tax amounts and how much he makes, and it should be accordingly.
Right.
But yeah.
So mostly then, and I think that's a fascinating model. We'll see if people take that model. I would want to see others do it first and watch the issues and then try to do it yourself. But so mostly the reason that people are buying these social tokens is the same as the reason somebody would support somebody on Patreon. It's access, right? That's the main. So so then for you guys are now at the point where how big did Agora, did it grow quickly? What was the growth trajectory for Agora?
It started growing. It was like pretty passive, obviously, when we were doing school from September to December. And then in January, I never knew about the idea of accelerator programs. I always got confused between the idea of like, what's an incubator and what's an accelerator? Like I said, I was like bare bones, barely knew anyone in Web3, barely knew anyone in tech. And so then I got introduced to the idea of accelerator programs. And so incubators and accelerators, just so people know the difference, is that incubators is like pre-idea. And so they kind of test you on ideas, like, here's a good idea, you build it, ship it, and maybe it's going to work. Accelerators are, you have an idea already and you want to accelerate the process of your initial idea. Mm-hmm. So we went through 3 accelerator programs. We went through Z Fellows, where they typically give you 10K check and $1 billion valuation. But the best part about Z Fellows, which was actually one of my favorite accelerator programs I went through, was because it connected you with like insane, like absolutely insane people. Like a typical week, for example, would be a Tuesday Zoom session with founder of Netflix, a Thursday Zoom session with founder of Tinder, and then maybe Friday session of like a Theo fellow. And like you get to have, and because the guy who does admissions has like insane access to a lot of the people in the Silicon Valley world. So that was a lot of fun. And then at night, you would do like a build sesh and then get feedback. And so, for example, there's 10 people that are selected every month, every 2 months or so for the crypto cohort. And I was actually the only person who was actually in the Toronto area. And actually only 2 people got accepted from Canada. Like everyone else is like Harvard, MIT, like all those kind of people. And then for me, it was just like not a super prestigious school. Also considering to drop out, so maybe like no school at all. And then very few people in Canada, like barely anyone from Canada ever gets it. So that was like super fun as well. But yeah, it was insane. I got to meet 9 other incredible people, and then every month like they do a new one. So like the bar to get in is super high, and so anyone who comes in is like incredible already. And because you're part of the same program, you're pretty much automatically friends, no matter what. So it's pretty cool.
And so, okay, so you join these accelerators. Are you still in school at this point?
No. So right now I'm actually taking a semester off, working at Talent Protocol.
Okay. No, but that's today. But like at this point in your build, I remember seeing a tweet that you put out that said you were dropping out of school last January, but you made a joke of it because you only dropped out for a week. Did you drop out of school at that point?
Yeah, so at that point, it's kind of funny. So at that point, it was like a 1-week dropout, and it was back in February. I did end up going back just to finish the semester, just to do the exam. But then, like, starting to this new semester, which is coming in, which is September, I'm not in school.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you do all these accelerator programs. You get great access to so many founders. They teach you so much, and take us to, I'm not sure when it would have been last spring, or at what point did you decide, was it you guys that decided you should try to sell this? How did that process come about?
Yeah, that's a good question. So at that point, I was pretty confident we could raise. And so we ended up getting term sheets. I'm not going to name the companies, but some of them are pretty insane VCs. We're looking to back us. And we're going to close a round for $350K back in April, pre-seed round. Okay, we're going to do pre-seed round. If you do a pre-seed round, all the funders are going to drop out. We're not going back. There's a real capital. We're going to be VC backed. This is no joke. And so at that point, we have $350K ready at our disposal. And around that time, April, was the crypto crash. And so we decided, you know what, either we can take $350K, continue building and scaling the company, or we can go for maybe a possibly bigger exit, but more importantly, have the exit underneath our belts, which is like, I think we're probably one of the biggest reasons there. I talked to one of my mentors from Z Fellows, and we kind of went back and forth on it. But I think the biggest reason for selling was if, for example, if we did 350K pre-seed, scale the company, and it wasn't be able to be feasible, grow fast enough to be able to raise another round, it would be difficult to sell there. And now we have VCs, and so the money we would actually make from selling would be a lot decreased. And we're also in a market in crypto which is not the greatest to be building. So it was also difficult on that end. On the opposite side of things, if we were to sell, the story would be really great of a 20-year-old selling a company for a good amount of money for an exit, and then joining the company that actually bought us out, which is the story that you're looking at right now. And so it kind of made more sense there. And if I ever wanted to build another company again, I could easily raise money, because at this point I'm an exited founder, and I did what I had to do over the year. So it just made more sense, like from a long-term standpoint, to be able to sell.
Okay. And so then take us through how did the selling process go? Did you guys do all that yourself? Did you bring in somebody to help you? How is that?
It's actually interesting, because I actually didn't know. What's interesting about acquisitions is that there's very little information online about that. You can find a ton of information about raising money. I got a boatload of information raising money. It's very limited on the amount of people that have actually shared how to actually get a company acquired. And so I had to LinkedIn a couple of people that I knew, a couple connections. And so I had to kind of go through them and kind of say, what did you mess up on? What did you do right? How would you do it again? Get a whole bunch of insight. I had like a huge Notion page about all these insights that people gave me. And then on top of that, probably one of the best ways to learn now would be through a platform called MicroAcquire, which they also do acquisitions. And essentially, they're like an acquisition marketplace where you have a company and you have a buyer, and they kind of connect you guys to possibly sell. We didn't end up going through that process because their crypto option was very limited. It was more for like Web2 startups who have like made an insane amount of ARR. But because we're only here for a year, we only built the company for the last year, we didn't have super insane data on what we're building yet. We're still too early. So we had to go a different route. But what's great about their platform is that because they kind of facilitate acquisitions on the daily, they have incredible resources, blogs, pamphlets, PDFs on how to do it. So that was also an incredible resource on top of what I understood from the people that I was chatting with anyways. So from there, learned as much as I could, did like a 4-week sprint of like understanding everything I could about doing an acquisition without actually doing the acquisition. And then another 4 weeks of actually doing the acquisition. So messaging potential companies that we've worked with in the past who we think could be great, either adjacent or were direct competitors to what we're building. And then eventually, within 3-4 weeks, getting offers from like multi-million-dollar companies, and also a lot of stealth companies that were built by incredible founders. And so from these 4 offers, then at this point, we had to decide and choose, okay, which company is the best one to kind of go with. And from day one, literally, it's funny. I mentioned this to everyone, but Talent Protocol was like #1 on our list. Like we had a list of all the potential ones we were going to reach out to. And we also ranked them from like 1 to like, we reached out to maybe like 15 companies. So 1 to 15. And we listed out like, if we got offered by this one, we'd take it over this one. And on top of the list was always Talent Protocol, which is like, I have like screenshots, I have like messages about it. I could show anyone, but on the top, it was always Talent Protocol. And like, I remember sending the initial message saying like, hey, and we actually sent them, and when I sent them the message, we actually had offers from other companies because I didn't want, they were like so high bar for me that I wanted to make sure I had other offers so I can say, hey, like we have other offers. You guys aren't the first people we're approaching. So at the time we had 3 other offers. And so we're like, hey, we have 3 other offers on the table. Let's chat. I'd love to be able to kind of figure something out. So I had to call up the CEO. I was close friends with the CMO at the time because we did a Twitter space together back in February. So I did have some connection there. Had to call the CEO. It went incredible. The vibes were like insane. And we went through the entire process from the legal to the PR to now making it fully public very, very quickly. The process was very fast. I think it was like 6-7 weeks.
Wow.
From, like the initial call to like legal closing, figuring out everything there. And then the only thing that took a little bit longer than expected was PR. But that was just simply just PR, you can't really tell too many people. Maybe you have to do an exclusive with one person. So PR is always a little bit difficult. But we closed before the end of summer, which is my goal, sell company. Like beginning of summer, April, I'm like, okay, I want to sell the company. By the end of summer, I want to sell it. And so by the end of summer, we sold it to an incredible $50 million plus company. And then now working at the company that bought us up.
Wow. Just incredible. It's amazing. I see why you say you could make a movie out of this, because it's like you manifested this. Everything just happened exactly as you wanted, as if you had Talent Protocol number one on your list. Like, it's like that. It doesn't happen that way. Like, that's just not the way life works.
It's crazy. Like, and the thing that was like, this whole thing was like a year and a couple months. Like, it was like a year and 2 months. So it's been kind of crazy. Like I honestly, like, looking back a year, like I can never tell myself this. Like my younger version would never believe me. It kind of, like you sold a startup. That's the startup you're working on right now. Despite all the struggles you might be having right now, or despite the insane successes, nothing's going to be able to match the feeling you get when you sell your first company.
Cool. Yeah. Well, just since you bring up your younger version, I've got to ask, what if you were to give any advice to yourself at the start of this journey, and to anybody listening to this who's at their start of their startup journey or earlier in their career, what would you say?
I think the biggest thing I'd probably tell myself would probably be like really like sink in the moments of like small wins. I think I was at a point where I just continued building and continued iterating, but then never really appreciated the small wins I had from like getting into Z Fellows and being one of 2 Canadians that got in during the 10 cohort, or like getting offers from VCs. And so like there was like a lot of moments where I kind of glossed over them, didn't really celebrate them. And and this is like all the founders as well. We're like this. We're just like insane work mode. And we didn't, any small win we had, we're like, okay, cool. What's the next thing? But I think for me, looking back, I made a huge celebration out of the acquisition, because I'm like, I need to really celebrate my wins. And I think it's probably the biggest win I've had, at least right now in my life. And so I need to be able to really cherish this moment, because it's not going to be every day I'm going to be able to sell a company. So I think really kind of focusing on the smaller wins I had when I was just getting started, I think I would have been able to really focus on like the bigger picture.
And I noticed that you mentioned that on your personal website, and we'll put a link to it in the show notes for everybody listening. You have a achievements page and you have a failures page. Tell us a little bit about that. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I actually took that inspiration from one of my friends who also has a personal website, and so I publicly show all my failures online, because I think when you look at someone who's gone over the same journey I went through the last year, you think, oh, he has his entire life super easy. Like he was super lucky. You know, the first one he had on his list obviously was the one he sold to. I could never do something like that. But then when you go on the website, you can see I got rejected from a huge amount of accelerator programs. You know, there was some VCs I wanted to get on the cap table, wasn't able to close. And so a lot of the things publicly that I failed in, I wanted everyone else to know that, you know, I didn't make it in a lot of things. And the things that I did do well in, super grateful in, but at this point, there's a lot of things that I learned from. And so I want to make it public to show other people that it was not an easy journey. And it was definitely a lot of struggle. But, you know, the successes, they're bigger than the failures that I had. So it makes it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. It's so, there's a lot of power in taking the time to write down your achievements and celebrate those, but also to acknowledge your failures and to be aware of those, because they're a reminder of the grind and the hard work that you put in. So yeah, thanks. That's really cool. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, I want to talk about Talent Protocol now. So you got acquired by Talent Protocol for 6 figures. Can you tell us the price, or is that disclosed?
It's publicly, it's undisclosed, but it was in the 6-figure range.
Okay.
I can't say the exact number, of course, but
and so you got acquired by them. And now what? So, or actually, I shouldn't. Before I say now what, why why were they so high on your list? What was it about Talent
Yeah.
Protocol that got you so excited?
I think that one of the biggest things was there's a couple things. The first one was like the name recognition. And so what Talent Protocol has, which is super cool, is that they fund people to go to different conferences, like crypto conferences around the world. So they're funding people to go to ETH Bogota, I think it is right now. And then they funded people to go to ETH Lisbon a couple of weeks ago. So they fund a lot of people to kind of go to cool different crypto places. And so a lot of my friends who are also around my age, like 22, I'm 20, but a little bit older than me probably, like 21, 22, have gone through the Talent House program where they have been able to get fully funded to go to a conference. And first introduction to crypto is huge. And so being able to fly out for free, live in a cool place with a lot of cool, talented builders and just build cool stuff. It's just an insane idea. And they're funneling that talent as well. So that's like one reason a lot of my friends knew the company. So when I said, I sold to Talent Protocol, my friends would know, okay, like he sold to a very legit company. That it's a program that I went through as well. And then the second reason was that they were doing a very similar model around social tokens. And so they were also building their own token model. And I remember going and being onboarded to their platform. And it was like insane. Like my mind was opening. Like they had some ideas that I never thought about, especially around like perks and tokens. And like they had more of like a career path where like each individual would have like where they've been, but also where they want to go. And so what's cool about that is that the initial investor supporters could then easily see and kind of come in. Like I need someone who is connected to a PR agency, for example, who could then publicly announce the acquisition. And so then these initial token holders would try to find someone to be able to kind of fill in that spot. So it was cool stuff like that, where I was like, wow, they're doing social tokens in a way that I've never seen before. And they've since then kind of expanded beyond tokens as well. But it was like such an interesting idea for me. And the team was, I think it's around 15-ish people, and everyone's insanely talented, like really world class about what they're doing. And when I had the initial call with the CEO, you have beautiful companies on the outside, but then they're broken on the inside with the culture and the people and the CEO just maybe not being that great. And so when I first did the onboarding call and met the CEO, he was incredible. Like it was like I was talking to like a future version of myself. And I don't get that feeling a lot, where I'm looking and talking to someone and like I can feel that we're in the same place, or like we're mentally in the same dimension of where we want to be in life. And I think he felt the same way as well. And so when we did the first onboarding call, and everything was super fast, like he would say like, okay, we'll get a response to you by Thursday. I need to talk to the team. Thursday response. There's a lot of other companies that offered where they're like, oh, we'll get back to you. And they never get back to us. And it takes like maybe a week. We have no idea. And we have to move this process quickly. It's not like a slow process we're going to take a long time on. And so he was super transparent, and everything he said, he was able to do. And so that was incredible. And then we got on a couple of really cool places once we did the acquisition, like Yahoo and Bloomberg, and Bitcoin.com. And so we got on insane places, and my name's everywhere now, which is just pretty funny. But I think a part of it was like taking a huge belief in the founder of the company as well.
Cool. That's awesome. I love that story. I just got to ask, so one thing that we are seeing that you're talking about here, which quite honestly, we have not talked a lot on our show about social tokens. We've been more focused on how to use NFTs to build businesses and DAOs, and really using DAOs. And I know that there's a big crossover between DAOs and social tokens, but I think that you're in a different generation than I am. I'm in my mid 30s, right? And so, not to make a big separation between us, but what I'm curious is, I'm wondering if you're seeing a trend that I'm just not seeing. Are a lot of your friends launching social tokens? Do you see this? Like, where do you put social tokens out a few years from now? Where do you see this going?
Yeah, so I think, I'll give you the ideal timeline, and I'll give you like the realistic timeline. So my ideal timeline would be
this is the Matt timeline, which is the I do everything before I'm 20 timeline, versus the everybody else moves at a more normal speed timeline.
That's right. So my ideal timeline is that I can see that when I'm like 25, 30, so 5, 10 years from now, people who are like, the typical Snapchatters, Instagrammers of, high school, elementary school, they all have some sort of digital identity in the Web3 world. And I think that one of the best ways to show that is through a token, and not an NFT. The reason you don't have a representation of you as an NFT is because they're not super scalable. Was number one, they're not super easily traded. Number two, but I think number three is that like NFTs, I think for me, they represent like a one-to-one transaction. Like NFT is a token gated access, NFT for a monthly call, but NFT is not like everything all together. You don't have to boom, 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 boom. And again, I'm going to add something else. Like it's just not that type of utility versus a token. And I think in the long term, I'd like to see a lot more people have more tokens. I think right now they're often reserved for celebrities. I think Talent Protocol is making a huge step in that, because a lot of individuals who you normally see on LinkedIn who have their career, who have some sort of professional outset, who are maybe college students just trying to find a job in the Web3 market, they need to have a Web3 resume, a Web3 presence online. The best way to do that right now is through Talent Protocol, because they have the initial token you make from creating your profile. You're going to show your entire resume, everything you did. And now they're also implementing verification on the blockchain. So for example, let's say you worked at a Web3 company. Let's say you worked at like Utopia Labs or like Layer 3 or like Coinbase. At that point, Coinbase can verify whether you work there or not, and maybe issue an NFT if they want. And everything there is like publicly. You can easily see your entire timeline. But what's cool is you can have token holders. And so now you're pretty much creating a Web3 LinkedIn where each individual has their own token, and each individual can easily see where you want to go in life and add value to where you're going.
It's so powerful. It's community, which is what we talk about so much in Web3, but it's building your community around you and your vision and your goals in life, which is really, when you cut to it, like, could there be anything better for humanity other than this like opportunity to build your own fan squad that are going to support you and have your back and hold you accountable? Like, it sounds, maybe I've got rose-colored glasses on, but it sounds like a huge potential for pushing humanity forward and making people better versions of themselves.
No, exactly. Like I said in the beginning of this podcast, like when I started thinking of myself as a company and having token holders as investors, like that was like the pinnacle moment, I would say. That like everything else that I did was like focus on that same idea, that same mindset. And I know a lot of other people like that, where they launch their token and like, oh wow, I'm actually accountable. Like I actually have to maybe update a little bit of my token holders. Maybe I have to like really set up a timeline for myself. And so having investors, and a lot of companies can preach for this as well. When you have investors, you start really thinking differently. If you have a startup company, second you have investors, you're like, we have to scale. We have to really, make this a big thing, because now we have other people besides ourselves that are really putting money into this project. But then when you put that same idea into an individual, you become like an insane limitless state where like it's just incredible. It's just
like you become like Bradley Cooper and Limitless.
Yeah, exactly. Like fully limitless. And you have like people around you that just
could one of our listeners put Matt's face on Bradley Cooper in Limitless and meme that, please? That would be great. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. It's super exciting. Do you have any idea what are the numbers on Talent Protocol? How many, or DCO Protocol? How many people have their own token? How much,
I know for
is there a lot
Talent
of transactions
Protocol
happening? Like any stats you can give us?
For Talent Protocol, their stats are pretty public. I think right now they're 150K users, all of which should have at least either, which means they've either invested into tokens, or I think a subset of them are also token creators. They have their own token as well.
Interesting. Any idea the average like raise, I guess, or conversion that like somebody who launches a token would get?
Yeah, typically I see like 1,000 is the typical number of when you launch a token, like how much you're often getting. from that.
$1,000, $1,000,
Yeah, $1,000. That's right. Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
And then most of the time, interestingly, it's like people you don't know who maybe just find you through the platform. Yeah, most of my investors are people I've never met. Slash, either people like, for example, when I launched my company token, my personal token went through the roof because the company was doing well, and the initial consensus was that if the company token is doing well, the people who built the token, who have their own tokens as well, they're probably going to do well as well. So like the second my company token started pumping, then my personal token started pumping as well. But you're always going to get like token holders that are just in it for the money. But you're also going to get token holders that are more of a long term. I want to actually support you for a long time.
Do you invest in any social tokens? In any?
Yeah, actually, I invest in a couple of the Talon Protocol founders. I used to invest in a couple celebrity ones as well. I used to be like a Logan Paul had his token as well on DSO. So I used to hold it at one point. But yeah, and also my other co-founders have tokens. So I invested a little bit into their tokens.
Cool. Okay, I want to jump to a speed round,
Sure.
but before we do, I want to give you a chance. I want to give you a chance to talk about what you're focused on now and where people can find you and where they can follow you, how they can invest in that token.
Sure, yeah.
You've got such a great story, and I know people are going to want to find you online. So go ahead and give your shill for the folks listening.
Sure, definitely. So right now I'm really trying to focus. I think my main domain is in Web3. So far I built a newsletter. Some of them are my token holders. Some of them are people who are potential token holders, and some of them are just people who want to know where I'm up to and what I'm doing every month or so. So if you go to web3club.vip, completely free newsletter, mostly update people of what I'm up to, new projects I'm working on, maybe new companies that I'm going to be building. And right now I'm working on Talon Protocol, and I'm starting to become a little bit more active on Twitter after the acquisition announcement. Now is a good time to finally kind of show myself out in the world. And so you can find me on Twitter by just typing Matt ESPOZ. Matt Espinoza is like a short form of my last name. So if you type that in, you can find me on there as well.
Awesome. We'll include both those links in the show notes as well. Okay, let's do a quick speed round before we wrap here. So first question, what's an NFT you'll never sell?
Dolce & Gabbana NFT. They actually recently airdropped me clothes just for holding. So I'm getting, there's like 1 out of like 800 in the world that are actually those like type of Italian clothes. So definitely worth it.
Okay. So when you say they airdrop you clothes, did they airdrop you like a virtual item, and then you had to burn it to get the physical, or how did that work?
Yes, actually. So virtual and then burn it to get the physical. So now I burned it and then I got the physical. I'm getting it in a couple of weeks.
Okay, really cool. Phygital is such a, I mean, that's the worst word, this physical digital word. Phygital, I think is how you say it. So they need to rebrand that word. But that is a huge unlock for the fashion industry.
Yeah.
I think we keep seeing it. Nike's done it, Adidas done it, Dolce & Gabbana's done it. I think Gucci's doing it. I think it's, it'll be really exciting. What's really interesting to me is the people that will not burn and instead will keep the digital version, because of the collector aspect of it, right? That it becomes more valuable over time. I like the physical stuff, so I'd probably burn, but
nice.
Cool. Favorite person to follow on Twitter?
Andrew Gazdek. He's the CEO of MicroAcquire. So he was huge help, obviously, during the acquisition.
Awesome. Okay, we'll put his link in the show notes as well. Something you've purchased recently for under $100 that brings you joy. Does not have to be a digital good.
Yeah, I recently bought my first Funko Pop. You know, those little, they're like little characters. I think I have one.
I have no idea what that is.
One of these little things.
Okay.
Like guys, and then there's supposed to be a character. So this is Luke Skywalker, but I bought one for I think it's a Captain America one. And it's just a cool little Funko Pop. That's what they're called. And so I bought my first one, and I just recently bought Luke. And like they're like $12-13. I just have them on my desk, and they're like super cool. So
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I wonder if Funko Pop will drop an NFT soon.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, if you had a billboard that 1 billion people were going to see, what would you write on it?
I would say humble builder on the trajectory to impact more lives.
Humble builder on the trajectory to impact more lives.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. From humble beginnings in Toronto, Canada, all the way to the top. Way to go, Matt. So happy for you. So great to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us. It's been it's been really cool to hear your story. I'm really, really impressed.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks everyone listening. Have yourself a great week. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Web3 Academy. We hope this helps you along your Web3 journey. And if it does, please share this episode and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Nothing in this podcast was financial advice. Crypto and Web3 can be risky. You can literally lose it all. In fact, if you invest on account of what we say, you probably will lose it all. So don't do that. In all honesty, the point of this podcast is to remove the noise of markets and price and focus on utility and implementation anyway. So you should not take any of this as financial advice. Thank you, friends, and see you in the next one.